Welcome to TFT on two wheels. As always, I'm your host, Mike. Today's topic: killing an educational cliche, blended learning. So here's the thing, and I should probably explain this first. I hate educational cliches. I use them, everyone uses them, especially as an administrator, you have to use them. Rigor is my favorite. But right beside that and behind that is blended learning. So the term blended learning is extremely popular. I'm not even going to try to count how many books are written on it, how many sub-cliches fall under blended learning. But in essence, if you've been living under a rock, blended learning is this idea that we are trying to show different models of technology integration. My problem with the term blended learning is it only speaks about whether you're doing something in a traditional paper pencil format or if you're doing something on a computer. It doesn't talk about what that assignment is. So I think what we have are teachers taking what they would normally do and just changing that process, as Eric Curts calls it, the process of delivery to the students. I want to talk more about the purpose of what we teach, especially with technology. So we're going to get rid of the term blended learning, and we're going to replace it, grassroots effort here, with the term relevant learning. So let's talk about relevant learning. Relevant learning is something that has to be born from an empathetic classroom. You, the teacher, or you, the student, if you're a student listening, there has to be an understanding and a commonality about learning as a process and why we're doing it, especially inside that classroom that you're with those 10, 20, 30, 40 kids. And I really truly feel that each teacher needs to spend the first 4, 5, 6 weeks of school creating that environment of understanding, creating that environment of student learning and student ownership of learning, so that everything you do is relevant. There's some links below to some blog posts about some of the activities that Garth and I have used over the years to show students those steps to being more empathetic, to help pull them into your curriculum, to make things relevant. And when I say relevant, let's talk about what that term means. What is relevant learning? There's still going to be every level of blooms in a relevant learning classroom. But relevant learning forces us as teachers to concentrate on why we're teaching something, not how we're teaching something. And I think what you'll find as a byproduct of relevant education, relevant learning, is that technology was going to automatically be incorporated, because those skills, the resources that are available there, you can't ignore those if your class is relevant. Now, I taught 7th grade world history. That's ancient history in Ohio, so kind of dawn of time through the Middle Ages. And we always tried to make things relevant, okay? So relevant learning. I'll post in a picture of what my lesson plan template used to look like. So I've been known for technology and how I use technology. I love technology. Obviously, I'm a technology director now. But you can see on my lesson plan that the technology, the delivery piece, the process, again, the process piece, isn't the first thing I think about. It can't be the first thing I think about. I have to think about relevance to my kids. I have to think about what they're learning and why they should be learning. So I challenge you to think about where your culture is in your classroom right now. Could you do relevant learning? Is there enough student ownership in your class of what's going on? Are your kids involved enough? Are they interested and curious enough to really look at how your curriculum affects their lives? A lot of you are going to answer no. I think a lot of you are going to answer yes, too. If it's not, what can you do to get there? And I don't care what time of the school year it is. There's always time to stop and sit down and have a conversation with your kids about reinventing what you do. We want our kids to reinvent themselves all the time. Why not ask ourselves to do it? Once you feel you have that culture established where you can do relevant learning, I really want you to use that lesson plan template that I have, or your own. But I want you to ignore the delivery system. Stop thinking about what websites you'll need. Stop thinking about what worksheets you'll need. And start thinking about why you're learning what you're learning. And it's a state standard. It's going to be on the test. my administration makes me. Those are not the reasons that we want to give for why we teach something. The one thing that we definitely bring to the adult classroom, or the table in any classroom, is experience. Just by age alone, we have a life experience that our students don't have, but they also have experiences they bring. So how are we going to incorporate those? And how are we going to make sure that we are the teacher? We are the center still, you know? We're the glue that holds it together, but you got to be able to let it go and let your kids go and then bring them back to that center, and then let them go and then bring them back to that center. So if you're a teacher incorporating technology for the first time, if you've been hearing about all these blended learning models, flex model, rotation model, all this stuff, sure, I guess those are important to know, so that when someone asks you how you're doing what you're doing in your class, or how you're doing what you're doing in your classroom, you can tell them. But I want your lessons and your units and why you're learning to really be about relevant learning, not blended learning. So good luck. Leave some comments in the post below. I hope this starts some good conversations at your school. Follow me at Twitter at Professor Mike 1. That's the number 1. And have a great afternoon. I know I will.